All right, hey everyone, Mark here, trying to get this thing going. All right, thank you all for joining me for my live stream today, my analysis. Welcome to another Greenbridge Investing market analysis. So this is the weekly forecast update, right, from the one that I streamed on Monday. So I want to thank you all for joining me. So real quick, if you're new to the stream, just put your symbol or the market that you'd like me to analyze in the chat. So once I get through my portion of the analysis, I can go right to the questions. And I want to try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. All right, so again, thank you all for joining me for this. All right, so let's get started. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Now, so let's begin with Bitcoin. All right, and let's talk about a couple of things here. So, on Sunday, I wrote that report on TradingView, and, we didn't take this trade because I have no excuse. And, it popped up like 5,000 points in a matter of hours, and now it's pulling back. So that's exactly what we want to see. In the chat earlier today, I laid out the scenarios that I'm looking for this thing for a new long. Now, if you took this trade at the 51,300, if you took that, I mean, at this point, you have to, let this thing breathe, right? Now, there is a sell signal in play right now. It took out the 53,800 area low. What's today's low? 52,505. So that is a sell signal that's in play. But here's the thing. If you're long from that price and you should have about a 4,000 point stop, you're nowhere near the stop. So you have to decide if you're willing to take the chance that this thing establishes a higher low or puts in the double bottom. Now, for people that missed that move, okay, this is our opportunity to get involved, right? So I want to see the higher low established. There's nothing there right now but a red candle. So we need some time. First of all, this thing needs to close. And then second, we need some kind of structure to develop. That can take a couple of days, okay? Again, I'm not watching 5-minute charts here. So we'll see how that unfolds, but that could turn out to be a trend continuation pattern or higher low. We may get one there. That would be a potential buying opportunity. Or we get the double bottom, all right, means it can test 48K, it's possible, and then reverse. I'd be very open to taking something like that. That's basically very similar to the gold trade that I had called back at 1720. It came off that 1675 low, right? It's the same idea. So we'll see if that materializes. Now, if these supports are cleared, if 48K is cleared, like it's not even there, that's bearish, okay? I mean, it's not a bear market, but it's a bearish sign. That's why you have to respect the stops, all right? Now, I'm not really anticipating something like that, but hey, you have to be open to anything, all right? So I'm looking for the buying opportunity on this pullback here. We'll see what it delivers over the next few days. Now, it's also possible that this is as low as it goes right now, and it starts to gyrate, in this range here. And that would also be a form of a trend continuation pattern. But these take time. That's why, when people are asking, should we buy now? Should we buy now? Like in this area right here, the thing is there's not enough time, right? In this area, like one candle or two candles is not enough time. These structures take time to develop so that we could measure our risk. So I'd want to see at least a couple more days if I was going to go for that type of more aggressive trend continuation pattern. Keep in mind, the trend is bullish, right? There's nothing bearish about this broader picture. Now, a lot of people, especially a lot of people that are newer, and I'm talking about gurus here, all these experts out there, they focus on this right here. They focus on this, and they say, oh, Bitcoin's in a bearish trend, and it's a lower high, so we're going to short it. Okay, but that's not the trend. That's a trend on a 5-minute chart maybe, or an hourly chart, but not on the bigger picture. That's meaningless on the bigger picture. It's just a pullback in a broader bullish trend. You all know how I like those situations, right? And we're going back into support. So that's a bullish thing for now. We'll just see how, if we get our confirmation. Remember, the key to these things, taking these type of trades, is waiting for the setup and the confirmation. I can sit here all day long and say how much I like Bitcoin at 50K and blah, 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 blah. But if it doesn't set up there, and doesn't give me, a way to measure my risk in a clear and defined way, then I really have no business taking risk, right? And that's where a lot of people go wrong. They just step in front of it because they say, oh, okay, it's at the magic level, but a lot of times these levels are random. So, we have some evidence of buying. Okay, cool. I want to see the setup. I want to see the confirmation. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Now, and that's what I'm looking for over the next few days. Let's take a quick look here at Ethereum. Because, again, Ethereum's on everyone's radar. Everyone's excited about Ethereum. I understand, but look, you can't get excited at highs is when you should be least excited, unless you're long from a great price. Then a high is a good thing, right? And you should be reducing your risk at such a high. So this thing blew through this reversal zone that I have here on my chart, blew right through it. Okay, that's definitely a sign of strength, made new highs. Now it's hesitating a bit. Is this thing going to just keep going? Look, when Bitcoin was gyrating between 60 and 65K, and I'm going to make this point with the stock market as well, right? There was no negative news in sight. I mean, everyone was saying, oh, it's going to be at 70K in the next couple of days and blah, 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 right? So the thing is, and some people make fun of me with my sayings, with my quotes, but I don't buy highs. So if you buy the high, you're taking a lot of risk, right? My point with Bitcoin was, no one was calling for 48K when it was pushing 60K. No one, but it went to 48K. How do you explain that, right? Price action is irrational. There's nothing rational about it. It's emotions that drive price. So you have to look at the opposite side, right? So this here, I wouldn't go near this long. This is a place to distribute risk. This is a place to sell, lock in profits if you have some, if you're in from a great price. Okay, reward risk here does not favor the long side at all. Probability is not on your side here, as great as it may look. But see, most people, when you come into this, and I started out the same way too, you look at what you see on the chart and we think in forms of logic. We have no choice. That's human nature, right? So we say, oh, looks strong. Probably will go higher because it looks strong. But what you see is not what you get with the market. So that's what you have to realize with that. So as far as Ethereum goes, over the next few days, as far as my forecast update, I want to see a retrace into this area right here, right? That would be a much better reward risk area. Let's see, that's around 2200, 2150 area, right? That area in the side of this box, that would be one area, right? That's the middle of the range after an attempted breakout. So it's likely to find support there. If price clears that, like it's not even there, then you're looking at the range low, okay, 2000. That's what you're looking at. So again, people want predictions. I can't make predictions because I don't know where the market's going to go. All I can do is adjust as the market shows me its hand. And all I can do is weigh risk and probabilities and adjust to that information. I know that here, risk is too high for longs, okay? Way too high. Now, some people may say, well, if you're not willing to long it, why not short it? Well, we don't short these things. If I'm going to short anything, I short the stock market. I short things like the S&P and stuff, or the NASDAQ. I don't short Bitcoin or these altcoins. We don't use leverage to trade these markets. Anyway, so the risk is not attractive here. And plus, if you short something like this, you are going against the bigger picture trend, which is bullish, and that's usually asking for trouble, especially if you're not quick when these things turn out wrong. Like if you short it and it goes the wrong way, people go into hope mode because they say, oh, it's too high, it's got to pull back. Yeah, it's got to pull back, but it may run 100 more points first, So just something to keep in mind there. So that's Ethereum. I want to see the pullback. And that would coincide with Bitcoin testing probably 50K or those low 50K, that low 50K support area. All right, now, and if Ethereum breaks these supports, again, no one sees this stuff coming. Usually some catalyst comes out of nowhere. If it clears 2000, that's a change. It's not a bearish market or a bearish trend at that point, but it's certainly a momentum change, which means the market may go into a consolidation. So we have to see how that goes. All right. Now, Litecoin, real quick, and then I'm going to start getting to your questions. Look, I do these sessions really to focus on your questions that you ask, because I know, it's cool to see what I'm watching and this and that, whatever, but we have to answer your questions. So here's Litecoin, right? Litecoin is the same situation as Bitcoin. Now, when Bitcoin had that that breakout area, that buy signal, right? On Monday, what was I talking about? And we people that came to this stream, we looked at about a dozen altcoins, right? And they all had the same situation. They all kind of looked like this right here. And I said, look, they're all just a repeat of Bitcoin. And that's what Litecoin is. It's just a repeat of Bitcoin. So whatever Bitcoin is doing, I mean, Litecoin is probably going to do the same thing. That's why I wasn't too, I wanted to look for a buy signal as an alternate to that Bitcoin trade, but I didn't like the areas. And I'm like, if Bitcoin pulls back, these things are just going to go right into the garbage zone. So that's why I held off on that. And here we are, right? We're hesitating with Litecoin. So again, just like Bitcoin, what I want to see on Litecoin is a test of this low right here. I would like to see that that's around the 200 area, maybe 205, maybe 210. That area right there would be attractive, all right, for a new swing trade long. That would be a nice double bottom, or basically range low in a broader bullish trend. I would love to see that. That's where probability is most attractive and reward risk is most attractive, not here in the middle. So no Litecoin, all right, until it touches one of those levels. Now, again, I'm following rules, right? And the rules are really what promote the consistency. It's not a feeling. It's not like, well, I don't feel like I like Litecoin, so I'm just going to not do anything. No, it doesn't fit the rules. And the rules that I follow are really set up to isolate higher probability, more attractive reward risk opportunities because they're infrequent. And it really helps to have rules to help identify them, and then you just follow the rules. So you don't have to sit there and second guess this and read this news about that and then try to put the puzzle pieces together, because all of that is really not very effective when you're dealing with a highly random environment to begin with. All right, so that's those coins. All right, let me jump over to the stock market real quick, because this has been a mess, right? So here's the NASDAQ 100. I'm pointing this out because this rectangle, I don't just draw these randomly. This is a reversal zone, okay? And I actually took the SQQQ, I took calls in that. I bought 8 months of time when we had this red candle back here. And since then, it's just been gyrating inside the lower portion of this range. And, 1 minute it looks like it's going to sell off, right? These are daily candles. And then next thing you know, it's pushing highs again. It's pushing all-time highs. The mainstream news is getting excited. Stock after stock, the FANG stocks are reporting great numbers and blah, blah, blah. Here's what you need to understand about that. All that optimism, that to me is a red flag, okay? When people are optimistic at highs and they think these things are just going to keep going, I go the opposite way, all right? I'm a contrarian. I do that because I'm looking at probabilities. I don't look at the news. I don't care how much money Google made, because none of that matters, right? Maybe in the long run as an investment, but I'm looking at this from a shorter term swing trade perspective. So I don't care how much money Amazon made. I don't care if they're splitting. I don't care if Microsoft flunked out. I don't care. All right, what I do care about is the probability of the location. And just like Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin was at 60K, between 61, 62. It actually touched 65K at one point, and it looked very similar to this. And at that time, Bitcoin had tons of positive news coming out, tons. This company was buying $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. That company was buying $1 billion of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be at 100,000 in the next couple of days. You better buy it at 65K, right? Bitcoin went to 48K over the next week or two. No one sees it coming. It's the same with this. The risk here on the long side is extremely high. That's why I've been staying away from stocks. I've been trying to stay away from them as much as possible. Previous two trades of the week that we've sent out, which they haven't been that great, but they're not stocks, right? We called gold, and then the week before that I called Litecoin, which got stopped out. But I've been purposely trying to stay away from stocks because of this risky area. Now, what I would like to see with the stock market is the pullback. And, I'm positioned with the SQQQ for that. That's why I bought a lot of time, because, boy, this thing likes to waste a lot of time. Now, today's price action, we have this doji, right? This wide range doji here, which is a sign of indecision. And it's indecision after pushing like the all-time high. The market should not give it back so quickly, right? So what that tells me, and again, I can't sit there and take a trade just on that information alone, but what this tells me, this price action tells me that the smart money is most likely distributing here, because all that great news that keeps coming out was priced in. They knew about this, and now they're distributing to people who follow logic and say, oh, Google had a positive report, I'm going to buy Google. Right, and who do you think is selling it to you? Right? That's what they do in these situations. So when you see that sign of great reports, market not responding that great, this is likely to sell off. Okay, maybe not tomorrow, but my point is the risk. So I can't make a prediction and say, oh, in a couple of weeks we'll be at 13.2. No, but the risk is too high. So just like with Bitcoin, it was the same story. My point is this. I'm still staying with that SQQQ long calls, which means I'm expecting a pullback. I want to see 13.2 trade. When the stock market pulls back, let's take a look at SPX. Okay, now the S&P has been strong. Okay, so that I'm sure a lot of the mainstream, whoever experts, blah blah blah, they're going to say, well, the S&P is up 15 points today, so market's just unbelievably strong. And great reports everywhere, market's going up forever. So when you see that kind of stuff, okay, cool, but not with that NASDAQ lagging like that, right? That's just a red flag. I don't buy highs, all that stuff. The risk is still high. I don't care how good it looks. So when this S&P pulls back and we start to see attractive levels, one of them, which is a minor level at 41.20, okay, but more attractive would be around here in the middle of this range, which is around what, 4,000? And then we're looking at like, what is this here? 39s, 39, basically mid 39.50 area, something like that. That is where I would be interested in swing trade longs, okay? Because that is where probability and risk are much more favorable than they are right now. All right, so that's my rant on that. Let me talk about gold real quick, all right? And then I'm gonna jump to your questions. I know I talk a lot and I wanna spend some time on your questions. All right, so real quick, gold. So we sent out the trade of the week on gold. We've been long gold, by the way, since 1720. That we sent out to members, like a month ago practically. So we still felt it was a good call for trade of the week because gold has a lot of things going for it. As we know, it's a seasonal time. I keep repeating that. I've been bullish on gold since February, okay, and even when gold was pushing those lows, because of these fundamental things that are going on. Shortage of the metal, all that kind of stuff, right? Shortage of the physical metal. So gold is shaky here with this outside bar developing. But again, if this higher low can just stay intact, what's today's low? 1756, okay? And I believe on the trade of the week, the stop was at 1740. So that's still in play if anyone took the CFD. I also sent out AG, okay, which is the silver miner. And that was an alternate to gold. You could see the idea there. The stop's at 14. This thing was at 15, basically 15.25 earlier today. But if it holds that higher low and gold goes, this thing is in good shape, right? And I've been very bullish on AG, even though that chart doesn't look the greatest. It's just a range low area and it's nearer support. That's what I want to see out of stocks, okay? Not pushing their highs. So, when I'm trying to take a risk. So anyway, those are for swing trades. So I just wanted to point that out. Nothing wrong with gold here. Letting this thing just do its job. Let that thing establish at higher low. I won't be surprised to see gold start pushing those 1800s, those lower 1800s over the next week. 10-year note, right? So keep an eye on this thing. This thing can be a helpful gauge. So this is the 10-year bonds, right? 10-year Treasury. And when the price is going lower, yields are going higher. When the price comes back up, yields are going lower. Yields are very important right now because if interest rates go higher, it puts a lot of negative pressure on a lot of things. So right now, this is sort of mixed. We got a pin bar here to go long, is what it looks like, right? Of course, it needs to take out those highs. Today's high needs to take that out tomorrow or Monday, and then that would imply lower rates to come if it can continue that trend. If this thing continues lower, right, that's going to be a sign of rising rates, which, I don't know. I mean, the Fed had their meeting yesterday, obviously. I don't know what the guy said because I don't pay attention to what he says. All I pay attention to is the price action and the result of after what he says. So my point is this. The bonds will give us a sense of which way this market's going to choose to go. I'm anticipating the hyperinflation route, right, which means weaker dollar. And if we get the weaker dollar, What does that mean? That means the bond price should go higher, okay? And the yields should go lower. That's in line with the weaker dollar. So we'll see if we get that. I mean, that's a fundamental opinion. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but if we get that, that should be good for gold and all that stuff. So those are a few things I wanted to mention about those. Let me get into your questions now. And again, thank you for sitting through my portion of the analysis. I really hope you found that helpful and insightful for your own decision making. All right, HS, hey, nice to see you. Go over some good, okay. So, all right, so HS, that I covered the main ones. If you want to see a particular symbol, let me know, because I'm sure there's some altcoins, right? I mean, the ones I'm watching, like, look, like Link, right? These are all, again, these are repeats of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin gives us the higher low, Link is going to give us the higher low, right? What's another one? Uni went ahead and has gone and just made its own highs, right? Not following anyone there. Probably, it looks like more similar to Ethereum. Let's see, what was the high today? 43.94. And our third target was 43. So this trade, I sent this out back in like February, and it reached its third target, you know, like between yesterday and today, right? So a couple of months. These things are slow for it to reach 3 targets. So that trade worked out, but man, you had to have a lot of patience sitting in that and watching that thing gyrate. Anyway, I mean, can't touch this up here. It's like Ethereum. What are some of the other ones I'm watching? Theta. Right? I mean, look at Theta. Again, repeat of Bitcoin. It's the same thing. So that's why you have to be careful with these, and you can't take them all, right? When they set up, it's wise to maybe take 1 or 2 or something for a swing trade. But taking them all, you're opening up yourself to a lot of risk. So it's usually not a good idea, all right? Because it's all the same trade. It's just a mini version of Bitcoin. All right, so let me get through what else I have here. Okay. Hey, Anna, nice to see you. Okay, Anna asks, you know, it looks like I'm missing some messages here. Okay, let me see. So yeah, I don't know. All right, I guess I think DJ put something and I don't see it. So anyway, all right, maybe he'll repost that. Okay, Anna, MSFT. So let's take a look. Now she's asking here, Microsoft, Netflix for a swing trade. Also, which levels are attractive for Google long term? Okay, great question. Great questions there. So Microsoft. Now look at this, right? Microsoft, they flunked out here or whatever a bit. All right, obviously people weren't happy with their report. Okay, whatever the details were. As far as the swing trade goes, it's early, right? This is too early because there's no structure here. Yes, it's a pullback, but here's what you have to look for. Never mind that. We need to see the level, a level that makes sense. The level that makes sense right now is 245 or 245 and a quarter. This thing right now is at 252. So it's still got some room, right, to gyrate lower. So that's one thing I'd wait for. Again, it's very tough to make a judgment on a single candle. It's very aggressive. So often it's better in these situations, especially, remember, Microsoft is a market stock. So Microsoft is going to be much more sensitive to the NASDAQ, or basically even lead the NASDAQ and the S&P and all that stuff. So with the risk that's baked into those markets right now, Microsoft is definitely not one I'm interested in for a swing trade unless it can give me a double bottom around 245. So basically over the next few days, you know, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, this thing starts to push into those lows, looks ugly, pops up a bit, right? And then gives you that double bottom. That can take time. That can take like a whole week for Microsoft. So that's what I think about Microsoft, but generally the chart is strong. Now, if the S&P and NASDAQ have a serious pullback, which we have not seen in months and months and months, because, you know, everyone just, you know, I guess we have all this stimulus money floating around, whatever the reason is, if there's a real pullback, Microsoft could break that support. That is what you have to be careful of, and why I don't think it's a good idea to just jump in front of this thing aggressively. If that support breaks, right, then you're looking at this range right here in the 230 area, which will probably catch a lot of people off guard, okay? Because no one's expecting that. All right, so just something to keep in mind there. That's Microsoft. Now, Netflix, NFLX. So this one started out, what, the week earlier, they had their negative report, right? And it gave back like $50 after hours or whatever. No one saw that coming again because everyone's too optimistic. And look, here's a great thing about this. It's at an attractive level, okay? We can argue that it is at an attractive support level. which is around, what is that, 5, basically the low 5s, right? That says 507, but you're usually better off giving it to like the whole number, 5 even, 500 even, because people tend to react psychologically around whole numbers. I mean, look, what's today's low on this thing? 499, right? So it's an interesting area, but again, it's a FANG stock. So if the market continues lower, remember, these things you can't look at these in isolation. You have to look at them in terms of the market, the broader market risk. This thing's at a support. The NASDAQ is not at a support. So if the NASDAQ breaks, this is going to break the support. That is what is likely to happen. So I would stay away from these right now. So my timing, like I'm focusing right now, my timing is basically the S&P, right? This is where my timing is going to come from. And if the S&P keeps climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, and the stocks are just kind of fluctuating around here, I'm not touching them because I'm not buying the S&P at highs. Okay, same with NASDAQ, right? NASDAQ is a little bit behind here. I mean, it's minus today a bit, but it's the S&P is keeping it going, right? But once this party is over, right, that's what I want to see. My timing for stocks will come from when this thing pulls back to 13.2. That's when I'll be interested, right? So no matter what the stock looks like. So I hope that answers your question about Netflix. That's the vulnerability. Now, I could be wrong. This thing may find support and bounce back into the middle of this gap, but it's a high risk trade. So, you know, you have the pin bar. If you want to go for that aggressive trade, all I would say is you need to really be nimble on that. And I think you are, because, you know, you're very active with these things. So, you know, that's just one thing to consider, right? So you do have some things going for it. It's just the broader market is not. And one day, you know, you have to keep something in mind. One day, right, overnight, maybe Sunday evening or whatever, some news comes out, whatever, and the market's, you know, negative, the S&P is negative 50 points overnight, these things will gap lower. And you'd be like, oh, I didn't see that coming, right? Because the market, you know, tends to do that. And if it gaps like that, all of these things are going to gap. And, you know, if you have a stop in there, it's going to gap through your stop, and now you get stuck in it. So that's another risk you take when you hold these things overnight, you know, for that type of trade. So anyway, I just want to point out those things. If you notice with my streams, I always really emphasize risk. I know a lot of people don't like to hear about risk, but risk is the only thing we can control in this game. So, you know, if you're not comfortable with the risk, you shouldn't take the trade, even if the trade goes the way you thought. Let's take a look at Google. Now, she's asking about Google long term. Now, look, this thing is clearly strong, right? Whether it's GOOG or GOOGL, I mean, it pretty much it's the same chart, right? So, and this thing's on its highs, right? All-time highs. Everyone's excited about Google. Okay, great. They're making billions of dollars. I understand. But the thing is, as you know, I don't buy highs. So I'm interested in support levels. Trend is clearly bullish, but where are the supports? Well, we have one right here, which is around, what is that, 2120 area? What's this high over here? Basically 21K. I'm not 21K, 2100 area. All right, that area, the whole number, it's usually good to just round to the whole number. That's where the support is on Google, right? That's the primary support, which would probably align with, you know, a 4,000 on the S&P. Your minor support on Google, which can easily be cleared, is around 2270s. So we can round that to like maybe 2250. Those are the only areas, if I was going to do anything, and that's actually, I'm sorry, to answer your question, those are short-term levels, okay? Long-term levels would be here, right? These lines that I have drawn on this chart. Google at 1830, or basically 1825, that area, that's a long-term level. Same with this range low. Was it 1700? Those are your long-term levels, right? The market would really have to break for this thing to go to such levels, right? But that's where it's an if, right? Remember, no one saw, where was Google a year ago, right? Where was Google back in March of 2020, right? Google was as low as 1088, right? That was the low over here. I mean, no one saw that coming. And I mean, look at this thing ever since, right? It's nuts. So, I mean, longer term, even if it gives back 50% of the move, that's usually a good spot for longer term investing, because at least you're not getting the highs. The thing is, It's going to look ugly if it gets here, and there's going to be a lot of negative news floating around. So in those situations, you have to see beyond that and really focus on the levels, because in order for it to get there, there needs to be a lot of negative catalysts. Usually when it gets there, right, with all the negative sentiment going on, people, I'm not touching the stock market. You're crazy. The stock market's going to go to zero. That's what people are going to be saying if it gets to such a price. So that's why you have to have your plan in advance. And if the price gets to where you've been expecting or waiting for, you have to, you have to follow through with your plan and start buying your shares. But for long term, again, one way to work with this is as it starts pushing these minor supports, you can take a smaller bite, right? So you can basically ration your inventory, and the lower it goes, the larger the bite you take, right? So you start out, and you know about this, I've talked about this many times. You start out with a certain amount that you want to invest. Let's just say $1,000, right? Easy round number. And as it starts to pull back, you're taking your little bites. I mean, with $1,000 of Google, I mean, one share, you're invested, right? So maybe $1,000 isn't a good example. You'd have to do for like a half of a share. But let's just say you have $10,000 to invest, right? And it starts to pull back. Well, perhaps you buy, one share around here that's going to tie up, $2,000 or whatever. As it starts to pull back, maybe you buy 2 shares over here. If it gets to these levels, maybe you buy 3 or 4 shares or whatever, right? That kind of thing. And that'll tie up your $10,000, but at least your average price will be somewhere in the middle. All right, anyway, so that's Google. All right, so thank you for asking about that. Hey, Travel, good to see you. Thanks for, no problem, no problem. I'm glad we can provide good answers for you. Okay, Gabriel, good to see you. Hey, John, nice to see you. John's asking about ADA and BNB. Okay, so Cardano, ADA, USDT, let's take a look. So, definitely one of the hype coins. Now, this had an interesting jump, right, on that Bitcoin move. That's nice, but not a place to buy, okay? You're basically fooling around near this range high resistance, which is what? Hold on, let me get a clearer number on that. I like to go for the whole number. So that's around $1.40, okay? Basically $1.40. That range right there, you're buying right into a resistance, right? So I wouldn't chase that. Again, this thing is clearly range bound. So I would be looking for the range low, all right? If you're interested in a swing trade or maybe an investment, the range low either way would be around $1.09, $1.10. Somewhere around there, that range low. If it can go slightly lower, maybe closer to $1 and start shaking people out, those would be the most attractive levels. Keep something in mind though. This thing is not a leader, okay? It's following Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin breaks, you have to use that as your gauge. If Bitcoin breaks and you see Bitcoin at 46, 45, 44, and this thing is also breaking the support and Bitcoin is not stabilizing, the party may be over. All right, temporarily. So my point to that is you don't want to keep buying more and more and more with this false sense of confidence, right? Because if you go to like something like, I saw an article that was written by Coinbase, right? And they were like, oh yeah, you just keep dollar cost averaging. It's the best strategy. And it's like, oh, yeah, it works as long as the market's going your way. But you shouldn't, I didn't read the article. I just saw the title and I was just surprised that they would put something like that. Because if these things start to break and people start buying into it and buying into it and buying into it, and they don't stop buying into it, and if this thing just starts pushing levels, that's when you're going to have that situation like we had back in 2017, 2018, when Bitcoin went to 3K and no one expected that, and a lot of people banged it out at the bottom. You don't want to be at the mercy of the market. So all I'm saying is if it starts to break, you can hold on to your investment if you're invested. Just don't keep putting on more and more and more until there's stability. But as far as a swing trade goes, that 110 area, or between $1 and 110 would be the attractive area, not where it is now. So that's Cardano. Thanks for asking about that. Now Binance Coin. Let's see Binance Coin. All right, so look at this thing, and this is another one that everyone's all into because it has a spectacular move. I mean, look at this. So when was this over here? When was this high? Made a high of 638, and that was back earlier in the month, right? Basically second week of April. And when it does something like that, perhaps it's news, whatever. No, why doesn't anyone call for the next leg, which is 428? How come no one Was anyone at 628 saying, well, in the next couple of days, this thing's going to be at 428? No one ever calls for that, do they? Right? They're all too busy chasing this inside of here, and this thing's going to go to $1,000 a coin. I'm going to be a millionaire in the next couple of days. Right? And then it goes to 428. Right? So that's just a market cycle, and it's perfectly normal. You have to be able to anticipate that type of stuff and recognize these as opportunities when it's ugly, right? Not when it's good looking up in here. So anyway, triple top developing. You have this pin bar, okay? It's not an official pin bar, but you have a long tail on it, right? Usually the open to the close. The candle range needs to be more narrow, but that right there off of a triple top high, not a bullish sign. All right, so I wouldn't be going crazy long. I wouldn't be chasing into that or trying to buy that breakout. Definitely not. The opportunity on this thing is near the range lows, which happens to be around 450. Right? That's where your higher probability is. Inside the middle of the range, it can go either way. Right? So this is higher risk. This area here is lower risk. Again, if these things break, right? If they start breaking those supports, you need to recognize it if you're in it. And you need to take the loss as quickly as you can, or at least reduce exposure, right? What the common mistake is, people go into hope mode, as I've mentioned many times, and it'll come back. It always comes back. It's been coming back all year. It always comes back. Well, there's going to be one time where it doesn't come back, right? And you don't want to get caught. So think of it this way. If it pushes the low and it makes you uncomfortable, you want to reduce risk or bang it out, take the loss. And if it turns there and gives you another reason to buy, you can always get back in. All right? It doesn't have to be a perfect setup, but if it turns back up off of that area where you had just banged it out and you waited like a day or two and it turns back, buy it back. All right? At least you're buying near a low at that point, and you've protected yourself from the potential break if it breaks. That's all I'm saying with those. So that's what I'm saying about that. General trend is always bullish. Right? So you do have that going for you, and this area would be the higher probability. It would be basically the failed low or range low in the broader bullish trend if it can hold. So thanks for asking about that. Hack, GDX and LTC. So I covered Litecoin. Let's take a look at GDX. If you missed it, you can go back in the video. GDX, is this correct? GDX, hold on, I don't know if I have the right symbol here. GDX US, is that a coin? No, are you talking about the gold mining trust? Is that what you're talking about? And let me just check the chat here. Okay, let's see. I hope I have the right symbol, but this is the gold miners ETF, if that's what you mean by GDX. Let me see, that when I put up GDX USD. All right, I'm gonna check the chat in case I have the wrong symbol. But all right, so let me go through this. GDX. Now, this is obviously it's very sensitive, obviously, because gold hasn't really done anything spectacular as far as pulling back. And look at this thing, right? I mean, talk about drama here. What is this high? 37.14, and the low is 34.40. So that's an interesting move off of that high. If there's any place to be looking to buy this thing, it would be here. All right, so you have that going for you. Better location. Now the thing is, like the other, like Microsoft, right? Looks similar to that chart. There's no structure yet. So you have a location, you have a broader momentum, which is bullish, and as we know, fundamentally, gold and the gold mining sector should be seasonally bullish. So you have that behind you. You wait in a situation like this, it's wise to wait for a double bottom or something like that, maybe a failed low, because here it's one single candle and it can break, right? That's the random nature of the market. So I wouldn't step in front of this. I would wait for structure and then work with it from there. If you step in front of this, you have to be quick. Like, what is the market closed yet? No, the market closes in about 12 minutes. If you step in front of something like this, okay, and then tomorrow this thing breaks 34.40, you should probably take the loss, right? But that's a much more aggressive type of trade. The other thing you can wait for, right? Stability doesn't have to be a double bottom, but it would be nice to see at least a pin bar develop here, okay, or an inside bar develop tomorrow or Monday. That would be a much better form of confirmation, and then it takes out that high. So the buy signal may take a day or two, maybe 3 to develop, but it's usually worth waiting for, because a lot of times when it doesn't develop and the market breaks, that's a stop out that you avoid. And we've saved tons of money waiting for those type of confirmations. So I hope that's the right symbol. All right, so let me move on here. MZ, GE, stock for a swing trade. Okay, let's take a look at GE. Now, what price is this thing at? 13.20. Okay, so GE is a market stock, which means it's going to basically follow the S&P and the Dow, right? Because that's the type of stock that it is. Now, GE has been consolidating. The trend has been bullish, but so has the market. The market's been pushing highs, right? S&P all-time highs, all that nonsense. This thing has been range bound. So I would not take this as a swing trade in the middle of the range. If you're going to work with this, and this is a slower mover, if you're going to work with something like this, at least wait for the range low, which is 1271, that 12, maybe 1250 area. Those would be the ideal prices where reward risk makes the most sense and probability is most favorable upon a setup. Again, you're talking about a swing trade, so you need the setup to develop there. But that's the better place to do it, not here. The reason is, in the middle here, this is a highly random area. Okay, middle of the range usually is, which means anything can happen. And I don't like highly random. If it works out randomly. I might as well play a slot machine, okay? And I'm not interested in playing slot machines. So I want to be able to measure probability, and I want to be able to isolate an opportunity where I know I have more of an advantage, right? So that is how I can produce consistency. Random, yeah, the market may reward you here and there, but it's false. Okay, so you make one and then you're going to give back two. So I'm not interested in that. So that's the area I'd look for GE. And again, with something like GE, you have to look at the broader market risk. And as I said like 100 times, the S&P is not in an attractive area. So if that S&P pulls back, GE is not going to go higher. All right, so just something to keep in mind there. Andre, could you take a look at pins? Sure, Pinterest, P-I-N-S. Now, Pinterest has been kind of all over the place. Look at this thing. Broader trend has been bullish. I mean, I remember when this thing was like $40. It established a range low right around here. What is that? 64.50? And you're near that range low now. I mean, this thing's at 68.10. And you have look at this little pin bar developing here, right? So that's interesting. Now, obviously, they must have had a report the other day because look at this gap. So that's usually the result of a report that came out less than stellar, or maybe not as good as people were expecting. Whatever the reason is, I don't care. Now, we're near the range low. So you do have that attractive location. You're not buying near the range high. You do have the pin bar. Okay, you have something there. So I would consider this in light of the position of the market, because again, even though this is not a highly correlated market stock, meaning it's not tightly correlated to the S&P, if there's a broad pullback, they're all going to feel it, right? And here we are fooling around near a support. So there's nothing wrong with taking aggressive trades. I would categorize it as aggressive. You're looking at a high here of 68.25. That's today's high. So that means tomorrow, if you take out today's high, that would be the buy signal, okay? Now for a swing trade, the first question we have to ask is, what is the risk? You're looking at 65, what's today's low? 65.38. So you figure, you have to give it some room. So you figure like 64.50 is where like a stop would go on something like that. And so if you're buying this thing at 68.25, you're looking at about $4 or $3.50 of risk. So can you make that much? You know, is it reasonable to reach a first target? Yeah, well, the lows in here, right around here, is 72. So that's about $4 away. So that the reward risk makes sense for the aggressive trade, and that's just target one, right? And that's within reason. So, okay, I can understand why, yeah, I would agree with that, but I would just categorize it as aggressive because the S&P and NASDAQ are not at supports, all right? And yeah, this thing may pop on its own, or if the S&P has another spectacular, optimistic, bullish day because markets never pull back, maybe this thing will pop a bit, right? So you do have a few things going for you. The thing with these, like I said, if you take such a trade, remember you have to wait till tomorrow for this thing to activate. If you take such a trade, and it turns, it goes the wrong way, you need to be quick to get out of these. All right, that's all I'm saying. And the other thing is, and I keep telling our members, don't overload. Don't have like 50 trades on at these market highs, because if they all turn red at the same time, it will make you emotional, because that's just naturally how we are. You'll see all this red, all losing all this money, and you're most likely to start banging out of a lot of them at, you know, at a not a very opportune time. So you don't want to be at the mercy of the market like that. So if you're going to take these, you know, take an amount that is manageable. All right, in case you have that situation. Again, the reason why I'm so cautious is because of the location of the S&P. All right, let's see what else we got here. And thank you for asking that question. What are your thoughts about NKLA? I like the price and thinking about getting some. Okay, NKLA, let's take a look. I've been watching those stocks, okay, and I know Nikola has been trying to turn itself around there a bit, because this thing has been very tedious, right? The electric vehicle sector has become like the hated sector in the recent weeks, right? A lot different than it was a few months ago, but as you can see, right, with this bearish momentum, it's become out of favor. And this is same thing with the cannabis stocks, and you know what? You're going to see the same thing with the altcoins, because they're just a flavor of the time right now. So here's the thing: you have the initial pop, which is a good start. I like to see this, right? That's a good start there. That means you have a potential change in structure, right? That's the beginning of stability. All right, that's fine. You have a lower high over here, right? I'm sorry, not lower high. You have a low over here at 1376. It's acting as resistance. So there's a couple of ways you can go about this, right, for Nikola. Now again, remember, this thing, it's not a highly correlated stock, but if the market has problems, this thing is relatively weak. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing start pushing lows, right? Going back below 9.25 here. I wouldn't be surprised, because right now you have, you know, weak stocks or weak markets. They don't take out resistance levels. They respect them. And right now this is respecting the resistance. So what this is likely to do, based on what we see right now, is break the support. Okay, that is what it's likely to do. Doesn't mean it will do it. Now, as far as aggressive longs, if you're interested in a long, because you said you like the company or whatever, you like the stock, you can wait for the double bottom, right, which is likely to occur because of the broader structure, which puts you at around, what is that price again? Basically 9.25 area. This thing right now is at, almost 12. So it can pull back a couple of points there, all right? You have that possibility. Or perhaps it gives you the higher low. Very similar to Bitcoin. Maybe in the mid-10s, you could get a reversal there. Those would be some more, I should say, conservative ideas to work with if it can deliver the structure. The most conservative thing you can do is wait for this thing to take out the resistance. If it takes that out, then it's confirming a change in structure. So yeah, you're not going to get the best price, but at least you're getting a possibility of a new structure developing, and that could be a bullish structure. So, you know, then you'd have to look for a higher low there, or maybe you want to try to buy that breakout, and the way to compensate for that risk is with smaller size. So if you normally were going to buy 100 shares, maybe you buy, on the breakout, maybe you buy 25 shares. In case it fails, you only have 25 shares, right? And you won't get shaken out of it. So, or it should be a lot less painful. So that's not bad. I mean, I like these sectors that are hated and forgotten about. I mean, I shouldn't say forgotten about, but you know what I'm talking about. When they're no longer on everyone's radar, and they're, oh, Nikola, that stock sucks, right? That's usually where opportunities are hiding, no matter what the fundamentals are. Because you know what, a lot of these companies, the CEO is not telling you what he has plans for 6 months from now, right? He may have an announcement in 3 months. Next thing you know, Nikola's back to like $15 because, oh, no one saw that coming, right? Oh, Nikola announces a partnership with blah, 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 and now they're going to put their whatever they're going to do. And no one saw that coming, right? So that's why you can't go by fundamentals with these things a lot of times. You just have to believe in their potential and work with the price structure. It'll give you a lot of clues. Okay, anyway. So that's Nikola. Thanks for asking about that. CHD, stock for a swing trade, MZ asks for. CHD, what is that? Let's take a look. okay, for a swing trade. I like these swing trade ideas, right? I like people bringing up these swing trade ideas because you know what? As a group, we can find ideas, and I like that. So, because you know, a lot of people are watching things that I may not be watching, and you bring our attention to potential opportunities, right? More eyes, the better. So, now look, talk about a structural change, right? This is, if you got something like this out of Nikola, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, right? So this is after the fact here. So here you are, you have the pullback, right? After this nice broad initial move, you have the pullback. Now, strong day today on this close. This is so getting into something like this, it's a little bit ahead of itself. What's the price here? 86.14 is the high, closed at 86.04. What was the low of yesterday? 84. So if you buy this right now, you're looking at least $2 of risk, okay? Now, granted, this thing could run to 90 because that's its recent high, right? So it's still within reason to test. But in these situations, I usually don't chase these. I prefer to see structure, right? Meaning it tests that low a second time. I would like to see that on something like this. Now, again, this situation right here is aggressive. And if you want to take that, again, you have to be able to justify that $2 risk. So this thing, what, closing at 85.95, and if it runs to 90, yeah, you're looking at, so that's about 2-to-1 reward risk about in that area right there. So it justifies it if you're interested in that, you know, if you're willing to take that risk. Again, this thing seems to be, you know, I guess this thing is, I wouldn't know how to characterize the correlation. I think I have the right stock here, right? Yeah. So I don't know if this is a highly correlated stock. I'm guessing it's not. But in this situation, yeah, you just have to determine if you can handle that risk. And if it, like I said, if you get into this and it turns the wrong way, give it a chance. If it breaks that support, you take the loss. Okay. You should always have a stop in place, and you should always respect the stop. I had someone in here the other day told me they took an FUV trade that I had called out, forgot to put the stop in, and they had lost 60% of, you know, the trade lost 60% of the investment or whatever. And that's why it's so important to respect the stops. It's so important. You save a lot of money. A lot of these stocks, they're garbage, a lot of them, you know, and we're just playing momentum. So when a stop is taken out, there's a reason why I put that stop in that place. It's because it shouldn't go there. If it goes there, that's a problem, right? It shouldn't. That means the momentum is not continuing as we thought, and you have to take the loss. Anyway, I just want to point those things out. But in terms of reward risk, in terms of structure, in terms of location, yeah, you have a bunch of things lined up there. So it's not a bad idea as far as a swing trade long. Okay, CHD. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, let me go through here. Gold. So Shubham, I went over gold earlier in the stream. So if you just back it up a bit, you can, probably 15 minutes into the stream, I covered gold real quick. The scammer. Man, I like these names. The scammer. Should I trust you, the scammer? All right, anyway, BTC, we have a lower low. Isn't reasonable to expect a lower high? Okay, good question, the scammer. Let's go back to BTC. So he's talking about the lower high here, right? And that's easy to assume. Why? Because many people are focused in on this structure here. Here, let me erase the box and let me redraw it so I can just I could draw your attention to it. Everyone's focused on this move right here. If you look at a smaller time frame, right, like a 4-hour chart, this is going to show like, oh, it's a trend, right? The bearish trend, lower high, and it should make the lower low. Okay, right. So theoretically, yeah, if you're in a day trade, that's a reasonable assessment. But I'm not looking at this from a day trade perspective. I'm looking at it from a swing trade perspective. And from the swing trade perspective, this move here, this bearish structure, is very minimal on the bigger picture. It doesn't change the bigger picture trend, which means these support levels, okay, which I'm looking at, that 50K to 48K area, that's where all the weight is. And we go back into that area, it's likely to reverse the other way. So that's why you can't mix time frames. Now, if you're on your 4-hour chart or your smaller time frame chart and you're taking a day trade and you want to try to give it a chance to see if it breaks, great, that could be a profitable trade if you're short. But the thing is, you're going against the bigger picture. So what you have to be able to do in those situations is be able to react quickly if it turns the wrong way, because the structure favors longs right now. even though this short-term structure over the recent couple of weeks looks bearish. There's nothing bearish about this. Just the momentum is a little bearish, but this thing's a long, okay? In this area, the probability favors longs. That's what you have to look out for. All right, it's very easy to get caught up in those situations when you're looking at smaller time frames. So I hope I answered your question there clearly. And let me just add another thing. Even if you got the lower low, that doesn't really, that's just a buying opportunity in the eyes of the bigger picture. So let's say you took the day trade or whatever, and you make a few hundred points in that, or maybe even 1,000 points. Hey, that's a great day trade or a very small time frame oriented trade. I'm still looking for longs because the probability and the potential are very high for longs in such an area. That would be a failed low if it reversed there, and I'd be going long. And people that get stuck in these trades, because like, oh no, I made the lower high, I'm going to stay short because it's going to 45K. Well, you're asking for trouble because the bigger picture doesn't favor that. All right, so it's really about weighing probabilities. All right, so thanks for asking. Sylvia, BCH, okay. People have asked about that in my other stream, and I never got to it when I was on TradingView the other day. So BCH, this thing is it had that recent pop because I guess it was about time it started to perform along with Bitcoin, which is what it's supposed to do. And now look what this thing is doing now. Again, it's just another Bitcoin copy. So I would not, this is just the same as Ethereum. I'm sorry, not Ethereum. It's the same as Litecoin. It's the same as Link. It's the same as all those other charts that we looked at. Theta, they all look the same. So in this situation, the lower high is developing here, right? And we have this red candle. It's about to take out yesterday's low. So that would mean a sell signal. As far as longs go, I'd be looking for the same situation as Bitcoin, the double bottom, all right? And that would be at 716 area or low 700s. That's where I'd like to see it. If it materializes there, that would be a range low. Broader bullish trend range low. If you get the reversal, that would be a nice place to take a long. All right, this trend has not reversed. Now, I know people argue about this lower high and this and that, but that could be a consolidation. Nothing to do with trend. In order for the trend to change, supports need to be broken. Major supports, right? Your first major support is around that 700 area. Your second major support is over here, which is around 4.25, okay? So until that's taken out, we can't argue really for a bearish trend. I would argue for a consolidation if we start taking out supports, if anything, because these things a lot of times they're not binary. They don't go from just bullish to bearish. All right, not on this time frame. They go from like bullish to maybe range bound, and then the broader trend reasserts itself at some point. That's what's been going on. Now it takes a lot for them to go bearish, so we'll have to see. We saw that from 2017, 2018, the 2018 peak to the 2020 March low. Yeah, it got bearish, eventually, but it took a lot of time. All right, it didn't just go there in a straight line. So, thanks for asking, Nin. How do you yourself determine a top? Okay, well, I don't know where the market's going to put in the top. Here, let's go back to Bitcoin. All right, so all I can do is the market needs to tell me first where it establishes the top, right? The market needs to show its hand. Now, let's go back. I bring a Bitcoin as an example because back here, right, when it looked like this, and everyone was bullish. Is that the 65K peak? Right around there, right? Everyone was bullish. All the news in the world was bullish. Bitcoin is going to go to 100K by tomorrow. You better buy some right now, right? But I'm looking at this relationship from that high to the previous top. Now, Bitcoin gave us a clue, and it said, watch out, there's selling activity up here, okay? So in that range, very high risk. And of course, Bitcoin followed through, right? The selling activity asserted itself. I don't know if this is going to happen, okay? All I know is the risk is too high for me to take. That is all I know. So I stay out. I don't care about anything else, okay? Especially as a swing trader. So I'm looking at probabilities. I don't pay attention to news. I don't pay attention to fundamentals. I don't pay attention to any of that stuff because all the clues are baked into price. All the fundamentals are baked into price. And the smart money has a lot of information that we don't have. You can't assume just because, maybe you belong to a couple of private groups that are sharing news and blah, blah, blah. if you're not an insider, okay, and you're not hanging out with the CEO of Coinbase, then you don't know what's going on, and neither do I, okay? We don't know what's really going on in the world. So the smart money that does, they're going to act way before we even get the information, and those clues or those footprints can come out in the price action, or at least in areas where we can gauge the probability of something like that occurring. Okay, so anyway, that's my answer about how do I know it's a top? That's how I know. It's really a matter of measuring risk. All right, just like the S&P. I've been calling for the top on the S&P for weeks, right? And look, the S&P just keeps going higher and higher and higher, right? Where's the top? I don't know where the top is, but it's not, maybe today is the top, but at some point it's going to establish a top, and when it does, then it'll look like Bitcoin. But right now, all I can tell you on the S&P is this is an extremely high risk area, and that's why I'm so against buying stocks in such a high risk area. I don't know where the top is, but all I know is it's somewhere nearby because this is not a bottom. Okay, so thanks for asking. That's a good question. All right, let me see. What's your pin bar theory? I never understood that. So Shubham asked about a pin bar. Pin bar is just just another name for a type of candlestick. Okay, pin bar is just, when I say pin bar, I'm just referring to a long tail on a candle, right? This is a pin bar right here. Pin bars are like hammers, right? If you look up candlestick analysis, a hammer is a pin bar. Now, a hammer has very specific criteria as outlined by Steve Neeson, the guy who basically brought candlestick analysis to the West back in the 90s. This wouldn't qualify as a hammer because the range is too wide, but it's still a pin bar because there's a long tail on it, all right? So pin bars, they can appear randomly, right? There's a pin bar over here, there's a pin bar over here, but pin bars are often a sign of reversal because at one point the candle was pushing that low and it reversed sharply, quickly in that period. That usually means something. So a lot of times when you see a market turn, a lot of time, not all the time, but a lot of times it starts with a pin bar. All right, so anyway, thanks for asking about that. If you want to learn more about pin bars, again, just Google candlestick analysis and candlestick, specifically look up a hammer. That'll explain the pin bar. Caleb, IMPUY, IMPUY. Let's see. This looks like a OTC stock, I'm guessing. Yeah, over the counter. All right, so let's take a look. Broader trend. Hey, can't argue with that. That's bullish, right? No question there. Let's take a look at levels. So I see a level here. How much is this thing? This thing is 1956. All right. We have a level over here. What is that? Higher low, 18, basically 19 even. And it's trying to pull back after pushing this high over here and failing or giving it back pretty quickly. All right. So general trend bullish. So definitely should be looking for supports, right, for a long. Your first support here is around basically 19. And this thing closed at 19.5 today. Bearish close. So wouldn't step in front of this. If you're going to do anything, wait for 19, but a more advantageous price would be around 17 because you have that nice push off of that area there. So those are the areas. Now, it's also possible to get like a failed low, right, off of that 19. So maybe in the mid 18s is a possibility. Those would be the prices that I'd be anticipating bullish price action to occur or establish itself, right? That's the reversal. That's the setup. That's what we look for. So those would be the prices to watch for in something like that if you're looking for a swing trade. Otherwise, you might want to wait for this thing to pull back to more attractive prices. If you're thinking about an investment, again, the way to deal with these, you could still work with these levels. You just have to ration your size, right? And make the size, the higher the price, the smaller the size. The lower the price goes, the larger the size you can take up until some point, right? Which is your target allocation, meaning, again, $1,000 you want to invest, you put more portions of the 1,000 to work, the lower it goes. Once you're fully invested with your $1,000, again, I'm talking long-term as an example, once you're fully invested with your $1,000 long-term, you stop putting more on. You have to protect yourself. You can't, what if this thing goes to $10, right? And you now, next thing you know, you have $5,000 invested and you keep putting more and more and more, eventually something like that can happen, right? You don't want to get caught in that situation. So you have to protect yourself on every trade. And that's how you do it with the bigger picture stuff. All right, so thanks for asking about IMPUY. Hey, no problem. HS, what do you think of Lina? Oh, here we go, Lina. Lina, I say that because I remember Alice asked about this one time, Lina. And I was checking Luna, I was checking Lana. I'm like, all right, what other Eastern European female names can I check here? All right, I'm just kidding. So, you know, they're all named Lana. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's a stereotype. So, Lina. Here's the thing with Lina. So, you don't have much price history. Let me see if I can find a better chart with Lina. Hold on. Let's see. Is that Lina? Let me see what other exchanges Lina is on. Is there a better chart that I can look at with some more history? No, not really. All right. So, there's not a lot of price history on Lina. I would not, first of all, forget this thing, right? I don't know what that is. It could be, it's either a bad tick or maybe it was that high and it gave it all back. Whatever that is, ignore it. So what you need to look at here is the more recent price action, right? And here you are. So this thing tried to put a double bottom in right around here at nine, just in the high 9-cent area. And look, it broke lower and it retested the area, and it's giving you a bearish pin bar. It doesn't matter the color of the bar. What matters is where the tail of the candle is. That's an upper tail, right? That's bearish. So I wouldn't do anything with this just yet. I mean, usually with these inexpensive coins, I don't swing trade these anyway. I wouldn't even bother. You're better off just trying to play the bigger picture with them because they're very noisy. And you know, when they have their big move, you don't want to be in and out of that. You just want to have your position on, and you know, like HS's brother, right, with VeChain. You just want to have a situation like that. So that's why I wouldn't go nuts with these as far as swing trades go. So as far as you know, position in something like this, you can take a small bite now. But the thing is, this could be the beginning of a more bearish trend. It's possible because it's respecting the resistance, right? So you have a potential support at 70732, right around there, basically 7.25 cents, right? That area. That would be the more ideal area to be picking up some as far as, you know, getting a better price. If it pushes below that and just clears that support, I would hold off on putting on more until it finds stability. The ideal situation is it goes there and reverses, means gives you a failed low, and that would be your first form of stability. Kind of like this double bottom over here, right? You're looking for something like this, but to occur over here, right? If it could do something like that, you're in better shape. So I'd be looking for something, and then if it starts to break, now let me give you an example. Let's just say this is what you have at the time, okay? Let's say it's a repeat of this, and you buy some. Let's say you buy $1,000 worth. Like, all right, I got a great price, and it goes higher. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to invest more. I'm going to buy the breakout. So now you buy another $1,000 worth, okay, and it goes a little bit in your favor, and you're like, all right, great, I got $2,000. Oh, it's pulling back a bit, but I don't care. You know, I can take the pain. All right, fine. It goes back into the middle of the range, and that's, by the way, the middle of the range is going to be your average price. Now I'll buy another $1,000 worth. All right, now you have $3,000 basically from the average price here, and now it does that. That's where you have to stop putting on more, okay? Now you're $3,000 in, and this thing is not behaving the way it should. That's why you can't keep putting on more and more. All right, what if this thing breaks that low? So just something to keep in mind there. You're working with average prices here. All right, so I hope that answers your question, but there's really it's not bullish yet. All right, so thanks for asking. Let me see what else I got. Oh, and by the way, I'm talking too much. Let me see how I'm doing with time. 1:08. All right, so I'm going to do this for maybe another 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'm going to wrap this up. But I really appreciate your questions. Okay, so let's see what else. Link. So Yashwan, I went over Link earlier. If you just go back, I talked about it briefly. I mean, actually, I didn't really spend a lot of time with it. Let me go take a look. Well, again, it's a Bitcoin repeat, right? Bitcoin repeat. Follow Bitcoin. You have the push here. If you're not in this, I'm assuming you're not in this, right? No reason to buy this thing right now. Wait for the retrace. Your support on this thing is 31, basically 31.5, right? Looking for the double bottom. That's what I'd be looking for. If you pull up a coin and it looks like this, because many charts look like this right now, just look for the double bottom, okay? They're all the same. They're all doing the same thing. Look for the reversal at the double bottom. That's your time. That's when the reward risk is most favorable. And if you're looking for a swing trade, that would be a much better price to do it than doing it here. If that support is cleared, stay away from them, okay? That support, if this market's gonna hold, that support, if it clears temporarily, okay, fine, but you should see a bullish candle the next day, right? You should not see another big red candle developing. That's how you know. So you don't have to be like rushing into these things, but that's what I would be looking for on that. Okay, so that's Link. All right, let me see what else we got here. Abraham, do you think BTC will go lower? ETH is at all-time high. All right, so Abraham, you bring up an interesting point, right? And they're kind of moving out of line, right? Ethereum is sitting on its high because it's relatively stronger, and Bitcoin, you know, is doing this. So there's that relationship that used to exist where Bitcoin led every coin is not really occurring right now. It seems like Ethereum is starting to break away, which is fine, but don't be confused by it. Like Ethereum, no matter what, okay, Ethereum is still in a very vulnerable location. So yeah, it's all-time highs, whatever. Here, let me pull up that Ethereum chart. But like I said before, high risk, very high risk. You don't want to buy this until it pulls back, okay? So I would just view this as something that's relatively strong. And if Bitcoin finds support, then I'd be expecting a greater performance out of Ethereum because it's acting relatively strong. That's how I would treat that. So thank you for asking about that. All right, let me see here. Just going through the chat here. Paul is asking about XSN. XSN. Man, you guys asked, like, that was like an hour ago he asked about that. I'm slow. I'm sorry, everyone. All right. So StakeNet. Oh, I remember someone had asked about this a couple of times in my previous streams. So look at StakeNet. This is very interesting. So there's really no trend here, right? This is range bound. Range bound markets aren't bad if you play the range. So here's the range, right? Your range low is 29, basically 30 cents, right? Just round it to the whole number. Hold on. Let me just put that. Let me put that like in the whole number area. Where's 30 cents? Right about there, right? Okay. And you have your range high up in here. You're in the middle of the range. So, but here's something that's interesting. Right there, this area right here, this was your previous middle of the range, right? And price broke below that. But as you see here, price did not break dramatically lower. At the time, it may have looked dramatic, but this is what I mean. Like when I was talking about Link and those other ones that you know, looking for the double bottom, it can do this to you, right? If it does something like this, and then you wait like a day, and then because these things aren't really, they don't move really that fast, and then next thing you know, a green candle shows up within the vicinity of this low. Okay, it's kind of near it. It's not, you know, it's within the range, and a green candle shows up, and it's going right back. That it's a failed low. All right, so that means people are banging it out. Maybe people were getting short or whatever, and now they're caught in this thing. I mean, that's usually how it works with the stocks or other types of markets. Now, you know, I don't know who the hell is shorting StakeNet. I don't know who would short something like that. But hey, maybe they're, you know, if it's shortable, people are probably shorting it. My point is, you have the failed low, and it's giving you a higher low right now. Those are bullish signs. So you're in the middle of this range. If you want to work with something like this, how much is this? 40 cents? Again, I'm not a big fan of these these lower priced coins because of their noise. But this is, you know, if you're willing to take the risk, your risk is defined at 35 cents, all right, based on this low over here. You can have a repeat of this situation where it tests lower again and then reverses back up in everyone's face again. Because keep in mind, the broader range low is here at 30 cents. So you better believe that, you know, the smarter money, or the smart money I should say, is very aware of these levels, because usually they're the ones that are establishing, whether they realize it or not, their money is what's establishing those levels, right? Because it obviously takes a lot of money to hold up the market. And that's why that's occurring. So that's where you want to be looking for your higher probability stuff, or your higher probability purchases, if you're going to ease into that, you know, and build some inventory around that. Those are the levels to do it. If you're going to buy some here, you should probably buy less, okay? Assuming you're going to try to buy some inventory and hold for a bigger move, okay? So thank you for asking about that. Okay, let's see what else we got here. I'm trying to get through the chat here. Luna. Okay, so wait, Luna. Is Luna a coin? I just went over Lina. Is Lina different than Luna? See what I mean with these names? Okay, so here's Luna. Um, so broader trend is bullish. No question. We can all agree on that, right? This is the broader trend. This is the broader trend, not this, right? People on their 4-hour charts or their 1-hour charts are going to call that the broader trend. It's not. Now, so we agree on that. Now, the second thing is it found support, higher low, within the broader bullish trend. Again, same situation as the one I just pointed out with StakeNet. Failed low right there. And nice push off of that. Okay, nice. Went into this resistance area. Can't buy this now. All right, so best thing to do here, wait for the possible higher low around this price, which is what, $14? See, now this is a much better price, $14, $15. This makes much more sense for a swing trade because this thing can move. Also, maybe if this thing retests the low, that would be even more ideal, around $13, this area here. Those are your two levels you're looking for. All right, as you can see, Bitcoin is pulling back, right, and these things are following. And in Shubham, you were asking about the pin bar. Look at this bearish pin bar right there. Look at that. I'm going to make it nice and big for you. Okay, bearish pin bar means selling is likely to follow. Well, there it is. So it doesn't always work out that way, but it's usually a very good clue. All right, so anyway, that's Luna USD. Thanks for asking about that. All right, let me see what else we got here. Trying to get through these quickly. Skipped my question. Oh, okay, Google. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so can you look at BCD, BTC? All right, so here's the thing about that. I'm glad you bring that up. BCD, BTC. This is one of those cross pairs, right? Cross pairs, meaning it's not paired with the dollar or a stable coin. I'm not a big fan of these because they're very erratic and very random. The reason is both sides of the equation are highly unstable compared to buying one side against a stable coin like the dollar, or something stable like the dollar, like BTC USD. So what that means is these levels don't carry as much weight. They're not going to be as reliable. They're really more dependent on the relationship between the two instruments, right? In this case, Bitcoin against BCD. So if they're moving in the same direction and one is moving faster than the other, like if BCD is moving higher, faster than Bitcoin, this thing's going to go higher. But if Bitcoin is moving faster and they're both going higher, this thing's going to go lower, just like a Forex pair. So I don't put a lot of weight on these levels. But if you want to look at this from a technical point of view, you're looking at this at, what is this, 0.00038 area, right? That's your support. If it can hold that, if that ratio stays in line, or whatever you want to call that. But like I said, I'd rather look at it in terms of a stable coin because you can then rely on the levels more. That's a support area. If it can hold, I mean, that's a potential long. Your risk would be defined from that 0.00003604. If it takes that out, it's probably going to go to this area here. But like I said, these levels are much more random for that reason. It's going to really depend on the relationship between the two. If you can, look at it against the dollar, okay? Or a stable coin, USDT, whatever. Paul, oh, thanks. Paul, I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, I know. I don't get many views. I mean, I see some of these live streams. They have like 1,500 followers or viewers. They have 5,000 viewers, and I go on there, and the guy's drawing pictures of like nonsense on it. I'm like, what is going on here? But anyway, that's okay. BHM, ICXUSD, ICXUSD. All right, what is that? Let's see. Icon, okay. So a lot of these things popped with Bitcoin. The broader trend is still bullish. I can't argue with it. All right. Nice. I like that it popped off of that range right there, right? This middle range area. See how much time it spent? Like I'll highlight the area. See this area right here? It spent a lot of time in there, right? That's usually meaningful when it comes to order flow because it means there's a lot of people either long or short or both or whatever in that area. So nice bounce off the area, which means that area is going to serve as a good reference point. I want to see a pullback. Again, something like this, I'm going to say it's a copy of Bitcoin in a way, right? I want to see a pullback to, what is this, a $1.90 area, maybe $1.85, something like that for a potential double bottom. Maybe what's this price here? This low is $1.57. Okay, so somewhere between like $1.90 and $1.50. That's going to be your area to consider a long if it can reverse. Again, something like this, it's a lesser expensive altcoin, so you may have to be more patient with it, or perhaps work the inventory method with something like this. Like I said, with these, you just have to be careful. If they start breaking supports, they should not. Then you should wait for stability before continuing to put more on. That's $1.30 for this thing. Has no business breaking $1.30. All right, if it does, then you should wait for stability to develop before doing anything else. Okay, and perhaps even taking, if you're in some, that would be a good time to reduce risk and take a loss on some of it if you have to. That's usually the better thing to do. I know it's frustrating and it sucks, but that's usually the better thing to do. Okay, Will, what are your thoughts on Fisher Transform? Okay, so I've heard of that. I believe it's an oscillator. I don't spend a lot of time with those things because a lot of them, you have to understand, all oscillators are sort of based on the same idea. They smooth out price over some period of time. And if that's what they're doing, then all they're doing is showing me old information. All right, and that's going to be hard for me to forecast with things like that. You'll get more value out of a trend line than you will off of something. Now, look, some people like to throw these really sophisticated things on their charts. Oh, I have an RSI with the CCI over here, and then you put that over this, and and then you have the stochastic over that, and the RSI over here, and it's a long, right? It's just a lot of, it's unnecessary and useless information, especially when it comes to the bigger picture. Some of those tools can be helpful if you're like evaluating a 1-minute chart, because it helps to reduce the noise, which is what you want, right? But on a bigger picture chart, a lot of times, like a daily chart, there really isn't a lot of noise if you know what to focus on. So that's why I don't spend any time with those things, okay? So thank you for asking about that. Let me see, I got another question here. What is this? Conceal, CCX. This is our private with huge potential. This one, okay, is a good exchange. Oh, are you spamming CT? Let me take a look. Hold on, CCX, because my members are smart. They're not going to believe you. CCX, is that a coin? Let's see. I'm not CCX USD T. All right, if that's a stock. If that's a stock and you're telling people to buy this thing now, not with that chart. What are you, nuts? I think he's just spamming. Yeah, we're not going to believe you on that one. Go find a group somewhere else. WCCX? What is that? Let me see. No, I'm not getting anything on that. So all I'm getting is this chart here. I wouldn't go near that. That looks ugly. Looks like it's going to break supports. So you go buy it. I'm not buying it. All right, Adrian, what about Atom? Okay, ATM USD. Let's take a look. All right. Oh, nice range. All right, what time is it? Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up here in just a couple more minutes. Again, thank you all for participating. If I missed your question, I apologize, but I'm trying to get to them all. I'm going to answer one more after this, and then I'll wrap this up, okay? And I really appreciate you spending your Thursday afternoon with me here. All right, so nice range here, okay? Ranges are more predictable. So right now, you're in the middle of the range, nothing to do, right? Nothing to do there, but there's sell signals. How many charts have we looked at today that have the same situation over the previous couple of days, look very similar to Bitcoin, right? So stay away from that. Wait for the range low. If you're interested in this thing, wait for the range low. Look at that, how many times it bounced off of that range low. That's 16.5. This thing right now is at $21. So why not wait and give it that chance to test 16 again? That's, if you're going to buy it, that's where your risk is best taken there. If it breaks 16 and you see this thing at like 14 or 12, well, take the loss or stop buying more or whatever. I'm not going to repeat myself, but that's the idea. It should not break 16 if this thing is going to stay in the range, especially in a broader bullish trend. This thing should respect this support, okay? And obviously the resistance area would be your potential target. I like this. This is a great one for the radar, okay? I would, $21 a coin, I would definitely put this on the radar for a swing trade long that I'd share with members, definitely. If it could test that price, because I like these type of situations. Okay, so thank you for asking about that. I got to put that on the list. I got to remember that. Okay, Doji and Doji BTC. Okay, so Doji USD. Let me see what I got here. Hold on, Doji. Can you just keep talking? I can't just keep talking, Wedge. I can't. Appreciate. Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. So let me do this. So I'm gonna do Dogecoin, and no DJ. You know what? No, I missed. I saw part of it, and then it got cut off. So I didn't see what you put DJ. DJ, just put your symbols back in the chat, and I'll look at least a couple of them. I have to do it for DJ. DJ shows up to like all my streams, and the guy shows up at like 3 a.m. sometimes, and whatever. Okay, when he's in other countries. All right. So let's take a look at Doge. Now we had a swing trade in this. Interesting. So we had a swing trade that we sent out off of this range. It was a range breakout idea, which I'm not a big fan of. But anyway, it looks like it's at least in the green. If you're in something like this, well, there's nothing to do here, right? It broke out a bit, and it's just fooling around inside the range. You have a red inside bar candle. There's really not much to say about that. It hasn't taken out any lows. So I would wait for this momentum to see if it can continue. Okay, now with something like this, if it takes out the range low, which is 32, if it takes that out, that's where things can start to become problematic. Now you may get the range low, right? Now look at this pin bar, Shubham. Look at this pin bar. What a pin bar. So if price can test that area, and it may invite buyers back in, because obviously buyers stepped in aggressively with the size of that pin bar. So you have this range in here. That may be a good place to buy. All right, or if it can reverse again. So right now there's nothing to do. And I wouldn't buy this now if you're not in it. I wouldn't buy it. I would just wait to see if it can pull back into the middle of this little consolidation for another, attempt, another buying attempt, or a bullish reversal of some kind. So that's what I'd wait for on something like that. All right, but not bad so far. I mean, I can't really say anything about it with that type of setup. And Doge BTC is going to be the same thing. I mean, again, go buy the stable coin. Don't go against Bitcoin. Don't go against BTC. It's not going to be very meaningful. All right. So thanks for asking about that. I have to jump to DJ stuff, because DJ asked he asked a ton of questions earlier, and I missed his thing. So, okay, DJ, hold on. I'm looking. DJ, what's the symbol? What's the symbol, DJ? I don't have the symbol. Kyle minis. Okay, hold on. Let me type that in. Let me see if I can type that in here. I'm not getting anything on that. Let's see. I'm not A mines. Let's see. A mines. Oh, here we go. I got it. Oh, it's on the Indian exchange, it looks like. Okay, let's try this one here. So DJ's in this here. 2 a.m. Shubham. You see these guys? They really stick it out. It's 2 a.m. in India. All right, look, nice move, right? So DJ, you're in this thing, and you're looking for an exit strategy. Pretty much the same, up 2 to 3 times, took profits, need an exit strategy. All right, well, let me look back. See, I don't see, wow, there's no, these look like all-time highs, right? Okay, nice. So here's what you do in this situation. When you have a runner like this, because that's what this is, right? You have a runner, it's a good idea to use a trailing stop here. Now, the trailing stop, though, I like to use it. I like to put it 2 candles behind, and on this time frame, forget the open candle. We have to look at the closed candles. That would be right here. What is that? 70.29. Okay. So what you can do in a situation like this, you're in from 3,300. Wow, and this thing's at 81. Okay. So you've taken some profits. So you're a strong hand. Let the winner run. I would go to a 4-hour chart. In these situations, this is where a smaller time frame makes sense. So go to like a 4-hour chart, which is 240. Okay. And now I look at the structure here, and now I go 2 candles behind, and that basically puts me here, right? So it helps you retain more profit. The low is 74.50, and this thing right now is at 81.35. So if this thing pushes higher, with this type of momentum, I would expect a higher high. All right, so in this situation, you just let that thing ride. One thing, there's 2 ways you can go about this. One, the trailing stop, you could put on a portion of your position. The other thing you can do too is just put limit orders out at whole numbers. So the next whole number on this thing, what is it, 8,500? So put a limit order there, and if it gets taken out, great, because you're never going to get the top, right? But at least you're getting ridiculously high prices that people are willing to pay, and it's possibly a top. So so keep, you know, it would be a good idea to probably portion out some of your position that way while putting a trailing stop on the rest of it, and then see how far it can go. Right? At some point it's going to tap you out, but at least you'll retained more of the move. So that's how to answer that question. Okay, hold on. So let me see. All right, cool. Yeah, and I don't talk about, as you know, I don't talk about 4-hour charts much. I don't talk about smaller time frames, but that is one occasion where, you know, especially on a stock, I will look at a 4-hour chart just for that purpose, right? Just so I can get some shorter time frame structure and work with the highs and lows on the 4-hour chart. But as far as taking on new positions, obviously, I wouldn't use a 4-hour chart. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that. Hold on, I see one more interesting question. I'm going to answer XX. Thanks. Oh, no problem, XX. Selling BTC at 55.3. I made 1-1 so far. Okay, cool. Very cool. I'm glad to hear that. So that, where would I get back into BTC? What's your advice? All right, so I'm glad you made some money on that position, and this is a good way to wrap up this chat here, this stream. So I'm waiting for a retest of the 50K area, right? Very simple. Just like all these altcoins we just looked at just now, right? Very similar situation. Look for the double bottom. All right, that could be anywhere between 50K and 48K. Look for the double bottom and then wait for the reversal. That trade idea that I put out on TradingView, right? I talked about 51,300, right? And that was basically the break of this pin bar here. So I'd like to see something similar develop. I'd like to see a pin bar develop somewhere between 50K and 48K, or maybe an inside bar break of that high on the daily chart. And there's your next swing trade idea, okay? If the market can produce such a scenario. And then I'd be, again, the targets would be very similar, 55K, 59K, or 58K, and like 62K, something like that, because that's the range, right? That's the proportional range. All right, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, cool. So I hope I answered all of your questions. If I missed your question again, I apologize. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Check out greenbridgeinvesting.com. The links to all that stuff you can find in the descriptive portion of this of the YouTube video here. If you click on Show More, all the links are there. If you're interested in any any of the things that we do, we have swing trades by text, by email. We have a chat room and stuff like that. Okay, things I just have to let people know. People are, I know they come to our chat. We get a lot of new people. They come to our chat and they're expecting like thousands of trades. But we've over the previous month we haven't had many trades. And it's because we're very conservative and we follow rules, and a lot of times it's just not worth trading. Even if the market goes the way we thought, we'd rather avoid the risk, okay? So all I ask is if you join and you do the free trial, all I ask is that just be patient. We do provide a lot of perspective in the chat room and a lot of potential ideas. Andrew will put out some more aggressive ideas, which we don't send out a text. Just people in the chat room pretty much get those because they're very aggressive. So I get email swing trade, but it don't open. Oh, maybe you talk about trade of the week, Shubham. Well, trade of the week, if you get an email, it should take you basically to our site, which has the trade information, right? We sent out gold over the previous one. It should open. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, so all I ask is if you join us and you check us out, it may not be as active as you might expect because we're not a day trade operation, right? We don't put out day trades. They're swing trades, and depending on the environment, some environments are extremely active, like we saw from January to March, basically, and then from like March to where we are now, it's been very quiet, right? We haven't had a lot of trades, so it's not like we're just doing nothing all day. We're watching. But we're always evaluating that risk, and we also have to be responsible for our large group of people that are getting into these things. Quite a few of our trades of the week have stopped out. We had a few swing trades stop out. So these things stop out, and one thing I don't want is to have people in 50 trades. The market turns to garbage, and then all 50 trades stop out. Other gurus, they don't care. Like, well, it's your problem. Read the fine print. Markets are risky. Not my problem. But we really take our responsibility on that. We want people to build confidence. The only way you're going to build confidence is taking trades that work, or when you lose relatively small. It's the only way you're going to do it. Without confidence, you're not going to get very far, right? In this game, you must have confidence, and confidence really comes from your decisions. Following others is okay when you're working, you're starting out and you're trying to figure things out. Following others is fine. But if you don't make those decisions yourself, you will not build confidence. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough. All right, I talk too much and I rant too much, and these guys here like Shubham that have been watching at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m., they got to be tired of my voice by now. So I got to wrap this thing up. Okay, cool. Hey, everyone. All right, cool. So, hey, thank you so much for spending your time with me here today. Wherever you are in the world, I'm coming at you from New York City area. You may not be able to tell, or maybe you can from my accent. I'm from New Jersey, so I have a New Jersey accent, which is not the same as a New York accent. And again, I appreciate your time and all your great questions. All right, so again, check out Greenbridge and all that other stuff. And really, thank you very much for watching.